Just gotta freshen up the blood.
I'm not ready yet. I must wait. I need time to do that.
Poison is nasty.
I must wait.
Whoops.
I must wait.
Key is to keep those frenzy stacks up for the
Not
defense
ready yet.
boost.
I must wait. I'm not ready yet.
I think the barber sucks up all those bleeds. And redeposits them. And then I think the barber
I'm not
proc
ready yet.
itself procs bleed. So bleeds get
I'm not
supercharged. You'll see it when we get to the final guy. He'll just,
I must wait.
you know, be hanging out, and then he'll just bleed a little bit and then die.
I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready yet.
Another key component of this is double swing, which critting gives you 25% attack speed. We've got 30% attack speed on basic skills.
I must wait.
And I think if we knock something over, which we do all the time because of our bleeds, we get the fury refunded as part of the attack from the core skill.
I must wait.
I was running thorns until about 11,100. Then what I found is the thorns damage just didn't scale very well the higher I got. But with fortify, off of some of Rob's videos, he uses fortify a lot on his
Not ready
builds.
yet.
I found that I could get the sustain, especially if I'm actually paying attention and not dying. I can get the sustain on this guy such that I can fight very low health for a very long time due to 74% damage reduction while injured. So you'll notice I have a full health bar of fortify, but very low health, actual health at some points when I'm fighting.
I'm not ready yet.
So that's kind of what we're doing, because we can't life steal, we can't steal life, but we can steal fortify. And if we're low, we keep that 35% damage reduction going, or 74% damage reduction going, actually, rather. Now what I found is this is very good with groups of folks. It's actually pretty good against killing bosses. But,
Not ready yet.
because you rely on bleed and you rely on crit and you rely on physical damage, any
I must wait.
any sigils that have those, like reduction, like bleed reduction, physical damage reduction, crit reduction, you basically are just flailing in the air forever and nothing dies. Or here it's, you know, dies pretty quickly actually, now that I'm kind of getting the rotation down. Yeah, I don't care that you got lost, friend.
I need more time.
Alright, we're getting pretty close to the end here. Hopefully I don't die. I might, but we'll see. We're just kind of going freeform here.
Not ready
Just
yet.
kind of trying to get better at the higher level dungeons. Nope. Ouch. Don't even know what killed me, really. Shattering Prowler. Probably cold damage. I die very quickly to cold damage. Like, instantly. Alright, let's get some frenzy stacks up over here before we go in. Get those shields down.
Not ready yet.
Very susceptible to blind on this guy, because you're keeping those frenzy stacks up.
Wouldn't have made it without you.
I can't lift more.
Alright, I think we have one more dude. Don't know where though. Maybe up here? Let's see. Oh yeah, I think we kill this group and then the boss spawns. It's been a while since I've done this one. Yep.
I must wait.
Kind of want to keep frenzy up for the boss. Of course he spawns right where there's invisible. Okay, 5 stacks of frenzy. Notice I keep knocking him down. Very nice. Oh, it didn't have been... What did we end up getting here? Probably nothing useful. Yeah. Pretty lame. Well, the core components of this build are, you know, damage reduction on the helm for basic skills, because we're casting frenzy constantly. We get damage reduction, 4% damage reduction up to 20% with anything that's bleeding, so the bleeds kick in. We want to stay in berserker as much as we can for the damage increase and damage reduction. We get 40% chance upon hitting a core skill to stay extend berserker by 2 seconds. That's why when I'm using double swing continually and getting the fury back, I can just stay in berserking basically forever. Then the stock, you know, damage reduction pants. Here's one of the key pieces of my gear too. It's got damage reduction while injured, 43%. Very nice to have. Damage reduction while fortified, because again I'm fortifying, and flat 9% damage reduction with some maximum health, which, you know, kind of helps maybe. Not so much on this because I'm not using barrier stacking. So, but these are pretty good pants for this build. I got these boots that actually have, you know, some fortified damage generation on them, and then also another 26% damage reduction while injured. So those two key pieces give me a bunch of damage reduction while injured as well. And here we're doing direct damage against bleeding enemies has a 29% chance to stun for 2 seconds. So we bleed everything and then spam dual swing and it stuns a bunch of stuff. And if we do cast the core skill against something that's stunned, we get 25 fury back, and this thing costs 25 fury to cast. So we basically get infinite core double swings as long as they're knocked down. The hammer here is, you know, basically when we deal damage while berserking, we inflict 50% of the base damage as bleeding, so we get more bleeds on stuff. This main one, you know, I was trying to run vuln, but I haven't really gotten much vuln damage. It doesn't really help with the bleed as much. These two weapons have vuln on them, but I kind of want to get better weapons without vuln on them because I'm not really running much vulnerability in this build. But we've got critical strikes with the core skill, increase attack speed by 25%. This is key. We want to make sure that we can get the attack speed of this double swing above 25% or above 35%, because then we actually get the fury refunded if we hit them when they're down. So if we stay in place, we get, you know, 30% damage. Pretty nice in the middle of those big packs. This is actually kind of the piece that put everything together for me. You'll notice it's got 10% cooldown reduction, 20% damage for close enemies, and then 38% damage reduction while injured. So with this necklace, these boots, and these pants, I've got this 74% damage reduction while injured, which, as you can see when I play, unless I'm, you know, not really paying too much attention, I can stay very low health for a very long time because the fortify actually buffers the damage I'm taking while I'm down in that 35% zone. I get 2 extra stacks of frenzy, so instead of 3, I get 5, which 5 times 8 is some amount, what, 45? I don't know what it is, but that's a ton of damage resistance because I'm running damage resistance on frenzy, 8% per stack. This one, basic skills get 30% attack speed. Again, what I want to do, especially in the higher levels, is get those 5 stacks up of frenzy as soon as possible. Roar or use rallying cry to knock them down and hopefully get 5 full stacks by the time they get up. Then if we stun a bleeding enemy, it deals 40% of the total bleeding amount to them as physical damage. So basically we got this synergy between physical damage we're doing from bleed when we stun them, as well as this one over here, whenever you deal direct damage with berserking, the base damage, it stacks bleed. So we're stacking bleeds and stuns and all sorts of fun stuff all over the place. And the final thing we're running here is Fields of Crimson. You know, it's got plus 9 ranks of rupture. So rupture is running up here at 14 out of 5. I'm not really sure if I should stack this as much. In fact, actually, it looks like my rupture is selecting my dual weapons and not this blade. Interesting. Maybe because they stack to higher damage overall, but fascinating. With auto select, actually, my dual wield is what's being used for rupture. Fascinating. Maybe that's not proccing this then. You know what? Maybe I'm not even getting this pool proc. Interesting. I'll have to check that out. But then under expertise, I'm using two-handed swords for the 30% increased bleeding damage per second. You get 20% direct damage you deal inflicted as bleeding. So I got another, you know, when I'm hitting direct damage with double swing, or actually when the barber procs, this thing triggers. So you get just tons of, like, on bosses, you'll see them kind of sit there for a little while until you get enough damage stacked with a barber against them, and then the barber procs, and then you'll see their health just bleed out, and then you can hit them with a rupture, which causes all the bleeding damage to basically be hit instantly, which triggers another bleed, which you can just chain rupture on stuff on the bosses once you get enough damage stacked up. Rob actually outlines this. I think maybe there's a little bug in there with it because it's like weird, but all I know is if you see their health actually increase when you're fighting them, the next rupture you do on them, they're guaranteed to be dead. It's almost like the health wraps around the health bar and like refills it up or something weird. But very interesting things happen with this build. And then under my abilities here, the skills I'm using are, I'm actually stacking Frenzy. I want to actually do damage with Frenzy here because it stacks extra bleeds. Right, it gets extra bleeding damage on them every time I hit with Frenzy. Because I have to stack 5 stacks anyways, I might as well get the extra bleeding going. Rend is very nice. This potentially can extend vulnerable if it's on there. I'm not really utilizing that. I'm going for max fury so that I can do as many double swings as possible. We got double swing here. Casting double swing while berserking grants 2 additional seconds for berserking. Again, we're trying to keep berserking up as much as possible. Go in for damage reduction from elites because we're so high level at this point. Rallying Cry gives me base life as fortify. Again, this is really just fortify generation, and it gives me some unstoppable, right? This is very key if I get surrounded in those big groups of dudes. Pretty typical, damage reduction while berserking. I'm berserking most of the time. Getting fury increased while I'm in berserking. 9% crit chance against immobilized, stunned, or slowed enemies. I could actually take something out of like here and pop it into here. Bleeding affects slow healthy enemies by 20%. In fact, I should do that because that'll actually proc this without me having to actually stun them. So I can slow them immediately as soon as they're bleeded. In fact, I was running this for a long time. Good catch. Then we got Rupture, 14 out of 5. Again, this is the key. Like, once you start stacking those bleeds and you can get multiple Ruptures on something, it just, chunks their health way, way down. Again, we're getting that attack speed. If we hit something with Rupture, which we most of the time do. Again, we're trying to stack some Fortify. Part of this build is doing Fortify. I'm going with Wrath of the Berserker for extra unstoppable, as well as what I've seen when this thing is going. I swear there's a bug with this where you get this damage bonus while you're berserking. Every 50 fury you spend increases berserking damage by 25%. I think this doesn't actually get wiped until the berserking buff drops. So I actually have a screenshot of my dude with like 34,000 attack power because I just kept chain berserking and berserking. I probably procced Wrath of the Berserker without the berserker buff ever dropping for like an entire dungeon. This thing went crazy. I want to have berserker rage up as much as possible and get extra bonus damage from it. I was running this bleed stuff, but again, I think part of this design is to stay berserking as much as possible so I get the bonus damage with Rupture when the bleeds hit. Paragon, not conventional typically for what you'd see with some of the other rend builds and whatnot. I'm not running exploits. I'm not running some of the other stuff that you might see. I'm basically did this as full bleeds. So, physical damage, maximum life, some armor. I could probably actually remove some of these and maybe take some more because I was running maximum life with barrier earlier. But, we got 42.8% extra damage to bleeding enemies and a 5% chance to crit against bleeds. Very nice. Armor and strength, physical damage. Again, you'll see we're stacking physical damage. 20% extra damage while berserking and berserking duration and stuff. So we're buffing our berserker. Killing a bleeding enemy has a 10% chance to grant berserker. So again, if everything's bleeding and we kill, 10 enemies, probably I'll trigger 5 seconds of berserking. So this is great. Big packs, very, very good. One person, not so useful. We get some damage to bleeding enemies increased. Granted 100% bonus to all rare nodes within range. This one I should probably switch out because there's that dealing thorns damage to an enemy increases damage it takes. I don't really run thorns in this anymore, so I could switch this out for exploit or something if I really wanted to do that. I might actually put in, I've been working on, I wish they showed the numbers, one of these. Revenge, Wrath, Territorial might be good. Undaunted. I might do this one actually. Every 5 willpower purchase within range gives you 5% extra damage while fortified. And since I'm fortified continually, this would be great. Plus I get an extra 10% damage reduction the more fortify it. Up to 10% damage reduction. Since I've got like 14,000 points of fortify, it might actually give me the full 10% there. So I might swap this one out for Undaunted here. But again, damage reduction from enemies that are bleeding. Nothing too fancy there. Damage to bleeding enemies. More damage while berserking. While berserking, critical strikes increase your attack speed. Again, I want to keep that attack speed up so that we can keep getting that fury with those infinite double swings when we're in berserker rage. 20% damage while berserking. Again, a lot of this is stacking, berserking, and bleeding. Physical damage over time. Damage reduction from close enemies. Again, we want to be in the middle of as many things as we can. Again, more damage while berserking, bleeding, damage over time. Enemies that have been affected by your bleeding for 3 or more seconds take 12% damage from you. This is kind of a mini buff. I may switch this out eventually. 12% isn't that big of a deal, to be honest. And not a lot of stuff lives past 3 seconds. But when it does, yeah, it really hits. We get damage over time again, damage to bleeding enemies. Again, more damage while berserking. There's a 10% damage reduction from elites while this is in as well. So you can see the theme here is basically physical damage, bleeding, berserking, as opposed to other, things like that, as opposed to exploit and other things. Exploit, vulnerability, stuff like that. Again, we take less damage from things that are bleeding. And finally, we did this. This is actually a good swap out here. So for every 75 Fury I spend, I gain 12% of my maximum life. So 1,700 as fortify. When we are spamming this, every 3 swings of this, we basically get 1,700. So that's why we're able to build up fortify so much in the middle of some of these battles. I think that's about it, actually. Oh, and the thing, yeah. Yeah, I think that's about it. I'm glad that I was able to finally clear 97. Just 3 more, and then we'll hit 100. And this is a build that I kind of like cobbled together over while I was leveling up to just because I like the bleed aspect, I like the dual wield aspect. I love berserker rage. I always wanted a dual wield build in Diablo 3 that actually could clear 150s. It never got that far, even with the Muchiest stuff. I think I hit like 130, 135 until it just kind of tanked because of lack of AE. This thing has a ton of AE damage, as you can see here. But the hearts I'm using are pretty important too. So this is the damage soak one. So soak a bunch of damage. I was lucky enough to get a blue slot on my necklace, which is nice. To put this in here. Barber, I've got a 2.3 in here. I actually have a 2.0 Barber. I may put like a higher number one here, mainly because of that increased 12% damage if they're bleeding for 3 seconds. What I find is if Barber procs in 2.3 seconds, the bleeds may not have hit that 12% bonus. So I might put my 3.6 back in here just to make sure that 12% procs, but and then this one, stunning a bleeding enemy, does a bunch of their stuff. So that's pretty much it. That's the rend, rupture, double swing, berserker build that can clear pretty high in the high 90s. And I tried 100s. I wasn't able to clear them, but I think I should be able to do it. This one wasn't too bad. I think I still had one death left. I just have to be more aggressive, because if I'm running away from things, I'm not getting the fortify stacks and I'm gonna die. Versus if I'm in the middle of everything and I just keep persisting and keep attacking, I can stay alive for pretty much ever. But there you go. That's the whole thing. Thanks for taking a look.